Context: I, 24, was born into a Muslim family. I am the youngest of 4 daughters. My father passed away a few months ago. He has one sister. Now, according to Islamic inheritance laws, if you don't have a son, your sisters, brothers etc. get a portion. However, since I don't have a brother, my aunt is legally entitled to a relatively large portion of my father's estate. My father was a very wealthy man. When he was diagnosed with cancer, everyone was sad and shocked. My aunt was my grandfather's favorite child. He loved my aunt more than life, and his only wish to my father was that he took care of his sister. After Grandpa died, my father paid for her education at the expense of his own and gave her whatever money she asked for. I think this was why my aunt actively anticipated getting my father's money, because she technically is legally entitled to it and my father has never said no to her before. I think this callousness was what broke my father at the end, because he got a lawyer and transferred everything he owned to my sisters and I. He told us to give her a lump sum amount after his death. It was more than enough to allow her to live in luxury for the rest of her life, but smaller than what she would have gotten had my father not divided his assets between my siblings and I before his death. He didn't tell my aunt that he did this. When he died, there was nothing to divide because he literally had nothing to his name. My aunt was livid even after we gave her the money our father asked us to give. My sisters and I had to deal with our aunt threatening to sue us. She's shown up at our doorsteps demanding money. Well, she did come through with her threat and took us to court. The judge ended up dismissing the case. He said that my father was allowed to give his property to whomever he wished while he was alive. This has torn our family apart from the inside out. I have cousins, aunt's children, calling me horrible names for robbing my aunt of her inheritance. Some family members think I should just give her what she wants, since I did technically rob her of what legally would have been her inheritance, and to keep the peace. Edit. My father came from a poor household. He shared the house they inherited 50-50 with my aunt, even though he would have gotten a bigger share had he wanted it. I said my father paid for her education at the expense of his own. My father worked hard to put my aunt through school. Because of this, he couldn't go to school or university himself because he had to work to pay her school fees. My father started his own business later on, and that's where he got his money from. Not the idiot. Let's make something very clear. You did not steal anything from your aunt. Your father, knowing how his estate would be divided by default, decided that that was not what he wanted to happen with his money and gave it to you instead. That was a decision he had every right, both legally and ethically, to make. In fact, it sounds like your father made specific provisions to care for her that are still more than generous. If you believe that mending the rift in your family is worth it monetarily, then that's a decision you have the right to make about how to spend your money. But you don't owe it to her. If she wouldn't have been so unfeeling, then none of this would have happened. She is at fault for your father doing this. Ultimately, it was your father's wish to give the money to his daughters. It would be contrary to what he wanted to give it to her now. You are honoring his decision. The judge was right, your father could give his money away to anyone he wanted before he died. I would also add that she is trying to guilt you into this, and the best way to deal with this is recognize you shouldn't feel guilty and fight fire with fire. Your aunt showed her true greed when she took you to court even after you upheld your father's wishes and gave her a portion of the inheritance. She is entitled to crap because your father willed everything to you and your sister when he was of sound mind and body. You are not to blame for it. It's obvious that all she cared about was the money. Keep the money, use it to make something of your life, and ignore the vultures. My parents are going through a divorce. It was a long time coming, and having to spend a lot more time together because they both had to work at home was the last straw. I know I probably sound a bit uncaring and icy about all of this, but at this point I think everyone is better off if they separate. The last 4 years have been marred with constant arguments, cheating and whatnot, and my mom in particular has been using me as an emotional support animal, and I am sick of it. By some miracle granted by the very gods, they have been amicable at least when it comes to splitting their finances, stuff they own, all of that. My mom moved to her new boyfriend, and my dad is keeping the house. Now that they got it all figured out, they only had one thing left to decide, and that is what to do with me. Unfortunately, they assumed I would want to spend 1 week at dad's place, the other at mom's place, and it's just a no for me. When they said what they had decided to do, I said no and explained I wanted to stay with dad. I gave the reason that I go to school here, my job is here, and I don't want it interrupted. In reality though, it has a lot more to do with me not liking my mom's boyfriend, one of the guys she cheated. Before you ask, dad cheated plenty of times too. But who has 2 kids, no interest in living with 2 random kids 50% of the time, of his own who live with him full time, and I am just a lot closer to my dad in general, we are a lot more alike, and he isn't emotionally draining like mom is. When I said this, mom broke down and begged me to stay with her full time instead. I said no, she threatened to go to court over this, but my dad pointed out that was a waste of time, because I am old enough to where my decision will pretty much be final. That was last week. My mom's side of the family has gotten involved since telling me I need to keep my mom's feelings into account and support her, and my grandma has gone as far as to demand I go live with my mom instead. I am aware I am not the most empathetic person, far from it, so I have a tendency to only look at things from my own side, but my mom is clearly broken up about this. She calls me several times a day crying. I want to know if I am the idiot here, please be blunt. Not the idiot. If your mother is treating you as an emotional support human, which I completely believe, then she's acting inappropriately, bordering on emotionally abusive. Guess what though? Even if your mom was a perfect picture of healthy parenting and you wanted to live with your dad, you're still not the idiot. You're a person. Your opinions and preferences matter. You're nearing adulthood. Your decisions, within reason, should be yours. My mom's side of the family has gotten involved since telling me I need to keep my mom's feelings into account and support her. And your feelings don't count? I wonder why. It turns out they do count. And there isn't much they can do about it apart from the emotional blackmail. Luckily, it doesn't sound like it's working. You do what's right for you. The reasons you've offered here would be sufficient for a judge to award majority custody to your father. If you were to include the living situation at your mom's, that would clinch the deal. Your ability to state your reasons is exactly why 16-year-olds typically have greater input in custody decisions. And the emotional pressure from your mom's side is why courts try to protect minors from bearing that burden. Be kind yet firm with your mom. Tell her you'll see her often and hope that she'll always want the best for you. My ex-wife and I have been divorced for almost 2 years now. Our marriage was falling apart for quite some time before she left. It was something I was expecting. What I didn't expect was for her to run off without the kids. She ran off with some little 20-year-old boy toy. They've been homeless for the last 18 months, bouncing back and forth between friends and hotel rooms. After 18 months they finally got a 1-bedroom studio apartment. Since I've literally done everything with the kids by myself the last 18 months, I figured it was about time she took them for a couple of days a week. The kids have been dying to spend some time with their mother anyways. I pretty much had to force her to take her own children. There was nothing but excuses on why she couldn't have her own kids. I had to threaten to take her to court for child support in order to get her to take them. I figured I'd use this extra time to get a couple extra hours at work, so maybe I could afford a decent Christmas this year. I got a phone call yesterday afternoon from my ex-wife saying her ride bailed on her and she had no way to pick up our kids from school. She only lives 2 miles away from the school. I told her she was just have to walk. It was literally the only time she had to do anything with the kids so far this school year. Now she's making me out to be the bad parent because I refuse to get the kids from school. Everyone's the idiot here, except for your kids. Your ex needs to get it together and realize she still has a responsibility to her children. And you need to just pick up your kids from school. Should your ex pick them up? Yes. Is she going to? No. Just because you all can't stand each other doesn't mean your kids need to be caught in the middle. Don't make them feel like a burden. Everyone's the idiot here, you much less so. You're in a really crappy situation, and it seems like you're trying your best, but do you really want to leave your children with someone who clearly doesn't care about them? Honestly, you probably should work out some sort of custody arrangement with the courts, so you officially have full custody. You may not be able to get child support if she has no income or money, but you'll have grounds to get it in the future if things change. Good luck though. I hope things get better. Your kids will realize all you did for them one day, even if their Christmases are sparse for a few years. You're the idiot. Why? For not waking up to the fact you cannot force someone to be a parent. For using your kids as a tool to get back at your ex, rather than realizing that as much as they want their mother, the mother they want, and the one they have, are two different women, it's your job as their father to do what is actually best for them and not what is convenient for you. It's time to lean on friends, family, and other parents you know for help, dude, not the woman who is bound and determined not to be a mother. My ex and I need to agree before we take the kids, 12 and 14, out of the country. She wants to take them on a European vacation to celebrate her new marriage to her new husband, but I won't allow it. She has threatened to take me to court over it, and if she does, I'll fight her tooth and nail. Here's why. 1. The principal reason. My kids have called her new husband dad before they even got engaged. She refused to discourage it and let them get attached to him to the point where they seem to like him more than they like me. Which leads to my next reason. 2. Her new husband makes much more than I do and can spoil the kids more. This trip will probably be entirely on his dime, making him out to be the better dad than me. 3. This trip will conflict with my parenting time. I only get my kids 1 day a week, and this would take that day away from me and would ruin our schedule. My ex offered to give me a different day, but I only have time that 1 day per week to do a fun day. She and her new husband already get so much time with them that I think it's ridiculous to both ask for more time and to take them to do something I can never afford for them. Am I an idiot for putting my foot down and refusing to let her take them? You're the idiot. They aren't toddlers, they know what's happening around them. They call him dad for a reason, and that reason is because they like him. You are not only refusing to let them go on this trip to be petty, but you would also be shooting yourself in the foot. Your kids will know they can't go specifically because of your pettiness. If you want your kids to like you more, be a good dad and not a petty ex-husband. You will lose at court. Fighting tooth and nail with someone who has far deeper pockets than you is a fool's errand. During this loss, you can certainly address the children calling him dad. However, if you want to be an actual dad, then worry about what is in your children's best interests. You will be hard-pressed to prove that a trip to Europe, when you can certainly have your missed day made up, is not in their best interest. Seriously, you are the worst. You have not provided a single reason why this would not be good for your kids. Your reasons for denying your children this experience are 100% self-centered and selfish. Not once did you take into consideration their feelings or bother to prioritize their happiness. If your primary concern is your children favoring their new stepfather, which is a silly concern to have, perhaps try being grateful that they have a seemingly loving step-parent when so many children don't wind up as fortunate. Perhaps don't go out of your way to come across as small, whiny and peevish, and in doing so, creating an even greater contrast in his favor. 7 years ago, I bought my wife a Maine Coon kitten for her birthday. Maine Coons are very big and have long hair. She's an indoor cat, never goes outside. About a year ago, she started having frequent hairballs. When I say frequent, it's rare to go more than 2 days between hairballs. She usually coughs one up and then a while later coughs up the rest of it, so it's more like 2 a day when she does have them. We've tried different cat foods, medications, additional grooming, everything imaginable with no luck in reducing the number of hairballs. The vet asked if we had ever considered shaving or trimming her, and my wife said that wasn't an option. I've been suggesting we shave the cat for the past month or 2, even showing her pictures of Maine Coons with lion cuts and other creative styles. She's 100% against doing anything at all other than regular brushing. She says the cat is a long hair and that's how she'll stay. She also says it's winter and you can't shave a cat in the winter. Remember, indoor cat, it's never colder than 70 inside. If I wanted a short-haired cat, I would have asked for one, not a Maine Coon. On Saturday, my wife had just left for a baby shower and a few minutes later the cat puked. I cleaned it up and 30 minutes later she puked up another hairball right after she had eaten, so it was a huge mess. I cleaned it up, took the cat into the bathroom and shaved her. When I say shaved, I use the 1/16 setting, so she still has hair, it's not bare skin. I also left the hair around her face, paws, and tip of her tail untouched, basically a lion cut. It took me over 2 hours, and it looks like a professional did it. Honestly, it looks just like the pictures that groomers post on their websites. The cat has been awesome since I shaved her. Not a single hairball. She's more active, stays around me, and my wife almost constantly, always purring, eating better, etc. She's like a brand new cat. My wife still hates that I shaved the cat despite the huge improvement noted above. She says I had no right to do that to her cat. She's virtually not talking to me now, complaining on the phone about it to all of her friends, etc. She's a very unhappy wife right now. Here's why I feel I did nothing wrong. My wife has never cleaned up a single hairball. Never. Not one. She says she can't because they make her gag. She'll throw up if she tries. She claims that she absolutely cannot do it under any circumstances, so I have been cleaning up multiple hairballs every week for the past year. I've come home from business trips and found hairballs covered with paper towels that I then have to clean up. Secondly, after seeing the improvement in the cat's health and overall happiness, I almost feel like a bad person for not doing it sooner. I simply don't understand why my wife can't see the improvement and agree that I did the right thing. Apparently, I'm still a huge idiot despite the happier, more active cat. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I understand why your wife is mad, and I imagine you probably do too. She asked you not to do something, you did it anyways. In almost all situations you'd be the idiot, or at least, get some of the blame. But she can't refuse to clean up hairballs, and also refuse to do anything to help the cat who is repeatedly getting sick. That's ridiculous. Also, she's valuing how the cat looks above how it feels. A cat is a living being, not a decoration. If the cat feels better, you did the right thing and should continue to keep him shaved. If she wants a cat just because it looks good, she can buy a stuffed cat on Amazon. It's not the wife's cat if she doesn't clean up the hairballs. Fancy being that gross that you leave them lying around till you get home from work trips. Terrible. I also remember watching a vet show where a Maine Coon had a mass in its tummy. The cat wasn't eating and was quite sick. Vet operated and opened up the cat. In the tummy was a massive hairball. Years and years of hair blocking the stomach and it couldn't pass it out the other end. Cat had an operation and a serious haircut. Cat will need a haircut every year. Not the idiot. Your wife needs her priorities in check. The cat is healthier and happier now. You did the right thing, your wife is just pissed because you've ruined her aesthetic. She seems like a pretty bad pet owner if she doesn't A. want to clean the mess from the cat being sick and B. is more concerned about how the cat looks than its health.